Hello, listeners. Welcome back. When you think of the biggest names in sportswear, who do you usually think of? Nike, right? The undisputed king. And Adidas, always on the number 2 seat. And for decades, that's been the story, a 2-horse race. But what if I told you there is a third giant? A company that just in a few years has quietly become the 3rd largest sportswear brand in the world with a market value that's now almost neck and neck with Adidas. And what if I told you you probably own something that's made by this company, but you have no idea, right? Ever worn a pair of Fila sneakers? Play tennis with a Wilson racket or shoes? Gone skiing with Salomon boots? Or maybe you own one of those high-end Arc'teryx jackets. Well, all of those iconic brands are owned by the same company. A company you've likely never heard of, and it's called Anta Sports. This isn't just another sportswear brand. This is a company that started in a tiny family workshop in the 1980s in a single town in China that now produces 1 out of every 5 pairs of sneakers on the planet. A company that bought the bankrupt Italian brand Fila for less than $50 million and turned it into a $4 billion a year cash cow. A company that orchestrated the largest acquisition in sportswear history to buy Amer Sports, the parent company of Arc'teryx and Salomon. Today, the Anta Group is more profitable than Nike, and its combined market value is already bigger than Adidas. This is a story of how a family of entrepreneurs from a small Chinese city built a global empire in plain sight. It's a story of ambition, audacious risk-taking, and a fundamental shift in the global economic landscape. So, how did they do it? And how did Anta become the hidden giant of sportswear? Let's dive into the story of Anta Sports. And we're your host. I'm Pan.
I'm Linda. And welcome to Ascent.
Let me start with one particular city and one family that is behind the story of Anta. So let me bring you to the city of Jinjiang and Quanzhou and the village of Chendai, also known as the shoe capital of the world. You may have heard of the province Fujian, and it's the southeastern part of China. It's very good at manufacturing, and 20% of the world's total shoes and 40% of the entire China's sports shoes is made in this small village of Chendai. And Chendai turns out about 1 billion pairs of sneaker annually.
Wow.
Really meaning every 5 pairs of sneakers is made in that town. And currently it produces about 10 to 12 billion pairs of shoes and has about 3,000 factories.
Wow.
Yeah, it is the home to the largest shoe material market, but only with a population of 500,000. And 80% of those population are shoe factory or someone working in the footwear industry. Like the entire town is in that industry. Quanzhou, back in the days, it was the international port all along. It was the old days New York, London, Dubai of the medieval world. Yes.
So it was the pre-Shenzhen port of China.
Right. It was one of the greatest trading port on earth from the 10th to the 14th century. So there is a lot of international merchants coming and going. And so naturally, the people who are based in that town are very, I guess, open-minded to the international market and prone to risk-taking, as we will get to later on. To sum up, I guess the Quanzhou spirit is of global trade, risk-taking, and manufacturing excellence. But then why Jinjiang? So now, in the year of 1979, if you're ever familiar with Chinese history, you would know something happened that year. That is the reform and opening up. In short, the economic development has been put as the priority for the country's development. Therefore, there are a lot more private business that you can enter into.
Privatization, round one.
That's right. So for Quanzhou and for Jinjiang, that means that a lot of people in that town are starting to think, what would be a business that I can start doing to make money? Like the beginning of, I guess, capitalization for that place. And there was this one dude, one peasant, and his name is And I'm not kidding. His name is Lin Tuqiu. He's a villager.
How would you translate that in English? Forest, dirt, and autumn.
Yeah, forest, dirt, and autumn.
Very
That's right.
visual, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So he's from Chendai village. And so he at the time invested basically his entire life saving, which is actually a lot of money back then, a little over 100K RMB, into making a stone house shoe factory. He bought a few sewing machines and he hired a dozen villagers as workers. And there he started the first shareholding township enterprise of Chendai and making shoes. It felt very much like a provincial level industrial revolution, like you just started to up the productivity by a lot.
Yeah, back then it's, for context, I guess, everything was nationalized before this event, right? So imagine 100% of what you're purchasing is coming from something government owned. So this is one signal that happened in 1979 that says, hey, if you want to become a business person, this is your first chance to do so for that entire generation. And a lot of people took up this opportunity. And became the entrepreneurs that they are later on.
Yeah. In the 1980s, hundreds of family-run workshops, like the one Lin started to spring up. And this is by a few factors, right? So first of all, there is a lot of overseas Chinese influence. There are, I guess, Chinese relatives and coming to the port city. Because of the exchange, the locals are being influenced more and understand that the international market and getting used to the international trends and inspiration. Because of the proximity to Taiwan, Fujian is just on the opposite side of Taiwan. Yeah. So Taiwanese shoe manufacturers are seeking lower cost factories. And they conveniently find those in Xinjiang. So sort of setting up the basis of the management and the governance.
Ah, okay. So back then there's still a big, I guess, economic disparity between the two sides.
That's right.
And so it's much cheaper to produce in Xinjiang.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And it's almost the same thing as, Hong Kong used to be a textile manufacturing hub. But once Shenzhen or Dongguan area was developed and Foshan, so a lot of the Hong Kong productivity capacity were then transferred to Dongguan and Foshan because it's cheaper. And
of course, cheap labor, basically.
Yeah. And then the third influence is, once you have a lot of factories and started producing leather shoes and cloth shoes, that was in during the 80s of China because everyone thought wearing leather shoes was the cool thing to do. But then they were introduced to the new idea of sneakers, which never existed in China. You might wonder who introduced those sneakers to China.
Nike?
Exactly. It's Nike and Adidas. So Nike and Adidas, it also established their factories in China. And guess where they are?
Xinjiang.
Exactly. Yeah. So all of these helped cultivated a very mature supply chain and trained the workforce there to be shoe experts or shoe manufacturing experts.
Okay.
So a couple years after that, in 1984, and this is, 5 years into the reform and opening up, things have happened. Chendai village became the first 100 million RMB revenue village in China.
Oh.
The first 1元镇. That's like rich. AF.
So they did a census across China to survey each of the townships, and then this township became the richest township in China.
Or I think the methodology comes in like taxation, maybe. Maybe there were more people. Like I don't know how rigorous the taxation bureaucracy.
They basically made the most amount of money out of every single town out there. Wow.
Yeah.
Shoes.
I did a little more research on Fujian province and realized that, this province...
The top 10 all come from this province.
Geez, this province is really good at doing business. There are quite a few entrepreneurs whose hometown are somewhere in Fujian. Let's start with manufacturing and industrial.
Okay.
This one we're more familiar with. One of the largest battery manufacturers in the world
CATL?
That's right. And where is it from? It's from Ningde. And Zheng Yuqun, the CEO, is from Ningde. Right?
And Ningde is in Fujian.
Ningde is in Fujian.
Okay.
Anta, of course. Have you ever watched that movie, American Factory?
You
know about that.
I know about it. I haven't
about
watched the whole thing. Yeah.
So the CEO of Fuyao Glass,
Oh.
where is he from? Fuqing, also Fujian.
Okay.
Right? And then so this you might not know. Heng'an Group. Heng'an Group is basically the Kleenex of China. They produce like paper or paper-related things, or like baby products and female products.
Got it.
Yeah, so that was also a very big personal care company. Moving on to the more exciting ones, technology and internet.
Even tech.
Yeah, even tech. Think about, I just told you the answer, but you can still pretend that you don't know it. But one of the largest, I guess, social video platform on the planet.
Well,
right
I
now.
wonder which one. Yeah,
Yes.
the one that starts with the T with the logo that's a D.
Yeah, so the CEO of ByteDance, Zhang Yiming, is from Fujian, Longyan. And the CEO of Meituan is also from Fujian, Longyan. I really want to go to Longyan right now. I wonder,
Do they know each other back in the days?
I have
town,
no
maybe,
clue.
yeah.
When we make those episodes, we'll find out more, but we'll get on to it. And even the CEO of Tencent. But here's a tricky thing. I don't think he grew up in Fujian.
I
but
thought he's from Guangdong.
yeah, he graduated from my high school. He is a high school alum, but from many, many years ago. We are very far apart. But he said his root is from Chaoshan, Fujian area.
Okay.
So allegedly, he made
Man,
that.
you can't be a Chinese businessman without linking yourself to
So, and then the Fujian route doesn't end just within China. And there are a lot of diasporas of Fujian who are also fantastic business entrepreneurs. A few very noticeable example that you might know of. Henry Tsai, the founder of SM Group, which is one of Philippines' largest retail conglomerate, is also from Fujian. Eng Tangfeng, which is the owner of the Far East Organization, one of the largest real estate developers in Singapore, is also from Fujian area. Anyways, back to Anta's story. So, in 1990s, Xinjiang is no longer content or happy with being the world's contract manufacturer. They were slowly making the transition from OEM, which is the original equipment manufacturer, to OBM, to the original brand manufacturer. And that location then produced a couple footwear brands, sportswear brands. And you might have heard of some of them. I'll name a few. There are Anta, of course, and X-Step, 特步, and 361 degrees, 361度, Peak,
Okay.
鸿星尔克, and Jordan, 中国乔丹. And here we want to introduce the Ding family to you. Like, the Ding family is the family behind Anta. Long story short, Daddy Ding. So his name is Ding Hemu. He's born in Fujian, but he was born in a very poor time in a very poor village in Xinjiang. And he was the only son in a farming family with 4 daughters. And he was the only son out of the 5 kids. The 4 others are daughters.
So does that mean he has to work a lot for the family?
That's right.
He has to be the breadbearer kind of thing?
That's right. So he has to work a lot. And even though he was talented, but because of the time that he was born in, it was either a lot of labor work or Cultural Revolution, or he just never get a chance to let his talent blossom. Like even if he would have business talents, he wouldn't have a chance to.
There was no business environment.
Right. But he saw the burgeoning demand for cheap rubber-soled shoes. So he wanted to take a risk. And once the reform and opening up happened, he was the first batch of people to jump onto the opportunity and started a shoe workshop, like the other hundreds of villagers. So that was the beginning. And then in 1970, Ding Shizhong,
The son.
The son, the second son, the actual CEO of Anta for the longest time was born. But he was the second kid of the family. There are 3 kids altogether. There's Shijia, which is the bigger brother, and Shizhong, the second brother, and Yali, the younger sister. Yeah,
oh,
the younger
sister. Okay.
Yeah, the younger sister. So at the age of 17, which is 1987, at the age of 17, Ding Shizhong dropped out of school and traveled to Beijing with something that his dad has missioned him to, which is to sell 600 pairs of shoes his father / the villagers have made. And at the time, he carried about 10,000 RMB with him. But mind you, in 1987, 10,000 RMB is a lot of money.
He carried the money with him along with the shoes, or
along with the shoes. Along with the shoes. And the goal that his dad told him was to sell all the shoes, see what you can get there, use your, Fujian business talent, and, do your magic in Beijing. So
bring some other stuff back so we could resell it?
Go make money. money.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was quite simple. So Ding Shizhong, set out to travel to Beijing. But to be honest, the Beijing trip did not go that well at the beginning, because 1987 in Beijing, 8 years after the reform and opening up, and also Beijing being the capital, a lot of things have already occupied Beijing. There are some brands.
There's other people selling shoes that are equally as good, if not better.
That's
already.
Right.
Okay.
And at the time, Beijing had 2 very large malls that are the largest shopping malls at the time that still exist today and are still very large shopping malls. One is Xidan.
Oh.
The other one is Wangfujing.
Okay, they still exist. Yes.
They're still very popular these days,
yes.
Right? So Ding Shizhong went to those malls, and so he was just chatting to the counter, say, "Hey, do you want to carry my shoes?"
Right. Finding retail distributors on the spot.
Exactly, finding retail distributors on the spot. And of course, no one would offer him any slot because it's all either taken or they don't want unbranded shoes, just some random brand being carried by the biggest malls in China. So the answer was no. But that didn't stop Ding Shizhong from trying and to get better sales channels. So then he went on to other parts of Beijing and were actively chatting and finding out, like, what are the ways that I can get my shoes sold? And he eventually reached to a conclusion and made a deal with Xidan and Wangfujing and some other retailers that there's no deposit. You don't need to pay me now. You could just take the shoes, and once you sell them, I take commission with you. I take commission out of your sales.
And they agreed. Wow.
And the 600 shoes were sold, and a very interesting survey was also done by Ding Shizhong. And then he realized that, this is the market ecosystem in Beijing. If you want to get on with the Beijing sales, then you have to plan your channels really well. You have to do your wholesales really well. In a couple of years, in between 1987 to 1991, he opened up a small standalone counter in Beijing to sell the shoes, while in the meantime, developing wholesales channel, and made about 200K RMB and a lot of sales experience.
Wow.
Not bad.
Was he doing was he being the middleman, or was he trying to find wholesalers?
He was trying to find the middleman. He was trying to find the wholesalers
that can carry his stuff other than selling through his retail.
That's right.
booth.
That's right. I don't have any memory because I was born at around
after that time.
Yeah, so I wouldn't know for sure.
Yeah.
What did it look like? But I can imagine maybe he was looking for the middle sales layer.
Right.
Before it wasn't DTC, of course. The malls back then were very much taking on a batch of goods and they would just resell it. It's kind of a reseller model, right? So 1991, Ding Shizhong returned to Xinjiang and convinced his dad and older brother to join a new venture that he created. And that is called Anta Shoes. And why Anta, you may ask? Anta which actually sounds like a pretty good English name, right? And then there's no overlap.
There's no
in
like Q or X.
Translated into that's very true. There's no Q and X. It means in Chinese, start your business with peace of mind and be an honest person. 安心创业，踏实做人。
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with shoes.
Has nothing to do with shoes.
It's a good name.
Yeah. And Ding Shizhong decided that two things will be the founding initiatives, and he will have to tackle these two projects one by one. Mm-hmm. The first is Anta will most definitely continue to do OEM and expand channels. And number two is whenever Anta feels ready, Anta will have to start do more branding. Because 4 years of being in Beijing taught him that if you don't have a brand and if people can't remember you, then it will be very difficult for you to be at a good price point in the market.
Yeah,
people will forget you.
I think he mentioned that if a shoe that left Xinjiang factory probably only sells for 50 renminbi to a wholesaler, but a shoe that you pick up at a Beijing department store goes in the hundreds.
Much more expensive, right? Yeah.
And it's only because there's a logo stamped on the side that people recognize.
It's very likely Adidas or Nike at the time. Yeah, they're very expensive shoes. After 1991, that he pulled the brother and his dad into the company. 3 years afterwards, at least this is what was documented, right? So in 1994, Anta was officially incorporated.
Okay.
Right.
So 1991 is when he came back with that idea. And they're probably still making shoes, but 1994 is when they registered the company and they want to do something serious.
That's right.
All right.
Yep.
So that's the official beginning.
And in between 1994 to 1999, Ding Shizhong used a couple years of time to do thorough market research to understand almost all the malls and how they operate and how they carry shoes, and set up a very large network of a couple hundred distributors and reseller model. He also put out a framework of working with suppliers. He will pay the suppliers fast so that the suppliers would be more willing to work with him. And he would then send the shoes out to the distributors fast and do commission sharing once the shoes are sold. So that would encourage more people to join the network.
Right.
Basically. So by the end of 1999, Anta already has 2,000 franchise stores or, distributors working with them. All right. Yeah. So that will be the end of 1999. In the 90s, that's when they encountered their very first competitor within China. And if you're in China, right.
A huge competitor.
And it's so how do I know this competitor? Because, I grew up in the 90s, right? So, and everybody knows about this competitor. And it's if you were doing a shoe brand that is in competition with that particular brand, like the odds for you to survive, like I would really put a lot of question mark on it. The name of that competitor is Li Ning. And you may wonder, what is Li Ning, right? Who is Li Ning? Li Ning is currently a retired Chinese gymnast. And he is a billionaire now, of course. And he is called the Prince of Gymnastics back in the days. And he's from Guangxi.
Why is he the Prince of Gymnastics?
It was the year of 1984. 1984 Los Angeles Summer Olympics was the first time the People's Republic of China participated in the Summer Olympics. And Li Ning was in the Chinese delegation participating in that Olympic Games. And he won 6 medals.
Himself
in that Olympics.
Okay, that makes him a national hero kind of thing.
Right, and he won 3 gold, 2 silver, and 1 bronze. The 3 gold were floor exercise, pommel horse, rings, and 2 silver are there's team and vault, and I'm not sure what that is.
Okay.
Li Ning is historically very good, before 1984, he won a bunch of medals at the World Cup gymnastics competition. And, so it's reasonable that he went on to win more. It's just a matter of when he joined, right?
And so when he retired, he set up his own clothing sneaker brand.
Correct.
With basically free marketing because the entire nation knows about him.
Exactly.
And Anta is going against this guy.
That's right. That's
right.
exactly right. So he retired in 1988, which is just about the time that Anta found its way. Right?
Yeah.
Li Ning had also thought about, well, now I am starting a new brand and my competitors are Nike and Adidas. And I don't want the market to be just occupied by Nike and Adidas. I want my share as well. So like, obviously, you have all the conditions, right? You would want to go into this market. And Nike and Adidas were priced at very premium price in the market. And there is a lot of space for other, sportswear consumer goods. Did you ever buy Nike and Adidas in China? We're like growing up.
When I was young, yeah.
Yeah, when I was young. And I imagine,
the price gap is high.
Yes, I remember when I was a kid, buying Nike and Adidas was something that my parents were not exactly so excited for. They were like, how about
some grade 8 the papers and like math exams, first place, then we can get you some shoes.
Right, because Nike and Adidas were seen as sports, luxury, like they're very overpriced.
Yeah, and I think it's so relative because nowadays you think of it as you can get a pair.
Right.
Like every quarter or whatever if you want. But then back then it was luxury item because the average income in China is so much
low, so much lower. Right. So Li Ning immediately became the established, national produced brands established leader because everyone knows Li Ning, right? And Anta became the underdog. No one knows about Anta. Yeah. Everyone knows about the unbranded like sneakers in the mall.
And that was my I never bought Li Ning when I was younger, but I knew about the brand. But I didn't hear about Anta until much later on in the story.
Yeah. And so then this sort of uneven situation sparked Anta to think about, what do I need to do to beat this prince of gymnastics? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
what can you do?
You're just a shoemaker, right?
Yeah.
So in the year 1999, that's when Anta made a very ambitious decision and very risky
decision.
Somewhat risky, not exactly very risky.
We can talk about the risk level later, but
we can come back to that. So Anta took out about 800k RMB, and I think different accounts has suggested the entire different amounts, but it was close to
roughly 800.
800k RMB. Anta had commissioned a ping pong player who had a very good track record of playing this game. And mind you, ping pong is kind of like the national sport of China. It becomes very competitive. So Anta had spent a lot of its annual profit into investing in this table tennis player whose name is Kong Linghui, and he has a nickname, Table Tennis Prince. A little bit more about Kong Linghui. He is kind of an iconic figure in the Chinese history of table tennis. He won the Grand Slam. How much do you know about table tennis playing? There are two different ways of holding that racket, right? Mm-hmm. There is this way of holding it, which is the pen hold, and this way of holding it, which is the handshake.
Okay.
And so Kong Linghui was the first person in China who championed this way, like the handshake grip. So the way that he grips it.
He changed the way of playing.
I guess. It's very awkward, but it works for him. And he won the Grand Slam. Mm-hmm. And he won a very famous game in the 2000 Sydney Olympics, which is the men's singles gold medal.
That's the medal that you want to get if you play table tennis.
That's right. And he also had the famous image of kissing the, I'm like not sure whether it's the flag or the flag or the national flag on the sleeve of his jersey after winning it. So he had a very strong opponent for that game. And that name, I remember because I was old enough to remember that game. It was a Swedish player that he was playing against. The Swedish player's name is called Waltner. He is called the Mozart of table tennis.
What does he sing when he?
I'm not sure why the naming convention, but he is a sporting legend in Sweden because to date, Waltner is the first player and the only player at the time who was not from China, Japan, or South Korea to win an Olympic table tennis title. He's likely the only non-Asian kid playing table tennis in an all Asian kid scenario, you know. It's pretty terrifying.
It's true. It's been Asian dominated ever since.
Right. And so he only got silver. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say he only got silver. He got silver in the 2000 Summer Olympics, narrowly losing to Kong Linghui.
Wow.
And there was a 20-minute video on YouTube recapturing that game. It is very intense. And if you're interested, you can take a look. That was a fantastic win for Kong Linghui. And after that win in 2000 in Sydney game, Anta won its bet in placing it on Kong Linghui. And that game and that image and scene of Kong Linghui kissing either the national flag or the Anta logo was put on TV commercial and was being broadcasted everywhere, especially on CCTV5. And he was
the sports channel.
And Kong Linghui was also saying proudly the Anta slogan at the time, I choose, I like, which does not make a lot of grammatical sense, but 我选择我喜欢, that was the slogan.
That was the slogan for Anta.
That was the slogan back then. Yeah.
So two things on this event. One is we talked about the risk level of this bet of placing a sponsorship. I think it's actually the first kind of sporting sponsorship in China on this one guy, right? Because usually you want to diversify your risk with maybe a portfolio.
Yeah.
First of all, table tennis is a China-dominated sport back in the day. If this guy didn't win gold, he would have won silver. The likelihood of him winning gold is very high. And so if they were to pick one person, you would probably pick table tennis as a sporting event back in the days.
I mean, you wouldn't pick fencing.
Right, or things that China's like maybe diving, or is it called 跳水? Is it?
Diving.
Or table tennis. I think those are the two
Badminton, table tennis, gymnastics.
Exactly. Like the ones that China dominated, you have to pick from that pool. That $800,000 though, that was how much they paid the athlete. There's another $3 million
that's being paid
that has been paid for the ads. So the follow-up ads on CCTV and like all of the marketing combined $3.8 million is what they made in profit. Anta made in profit the entire year before. So they threw in one whole year of profit into this one single event.
All in. Yeah.
So we talked about this before recording, but it's high probability all in. Is kind of the model that Anta is going by.
You can see this pattern repeating over time.
Yeah, over time, and we'll talk about more of this. But it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
but I think it's one of the only few things that they had to do if they were ever to want to compete with Li-Ning at the time.
Yeah.
And the gamble paid off. And the other brands you mentioned, X-Step 361 or 360. So they kind of all stepped back.
They followed suit. They did the same thing.
Yeah, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
It worked, but it not as impactful, I guess, as the first one who did this kind of athlete sponsorship combination.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like that's probably the first generation of athlete sponsorship ads, like in China.
In China, yeah.
X-Step and De'erhui and some other Xinjiang brands, they use the celebrity endorsement plus TV commercial kind of a combination. But not everyone all materialized like Anta did, because after all, Kong Linghui was a national champion.
Yeah.
So, moving on to the next attempt, right? So, the Olympics, the ping pong was the first attempt. It's great, but it's not enough. Anta needed a bigger market. And what was trending at the time? A key battleground for the two brands, Anta and Li-Ning at the time, was basketball.
Right.
We're coming on to the basketball bit. In the 90s and the early 2000s, and even today, I'd say.
It's huge.
Yeah, basketball is a
China.
huge thing in China.
Yeah.
The NBA. Anta had wanted to collaborate with CBA.
Chinese Basketball Association.
That's right. In 2004, Anta made an investment, about 60 million RMB, to be the exclusive sponsor for CBA. And CBA had exclusive sponsorship for the next 3 years only with Anta, but just the name, not the sneakers yet. Because Anta, they don't make sneakers for basketball at that time. And also, if you're making basketball sneakers, you might as well have a very big R&D department.
That's a very strange decision. You don't have basketball sneakers and then you sponsor CBA.
Yeah, it's just... It's
a
like,
logo that's on CBA, but none of the player actually wears your shoes.
That's right. It's a logo that's sitting on the side of all the games.
Okay.
But unfortunately, because Anta doesn't have a line of sneakers yet, the CBA players were not wearing Anta. And what made things a little tricky is Anta want CBA players to wear the basketball sneakers. They tried, but the CBA players did not like Anta shoes.
They're not good enough back then.
And think about this. They were running all the time. And if the shoe is, a bit weird, then you sprain your ankle and you injure yourself. And that is a terrible loss for the team. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a destabilizing factor for the game.
I guess you do need really technical capabilities or R&Ds for sports.
Which is what Nike and Adidas have, but Anta does not have at the time.
It was early.
Right.
Days.
Early on. So that got Ding Shizhong into thinking, I actually need to spend money and time into develop my own basketball R&D.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
why would you sponsor the CBA?
Right.
Yeah.
So he made it somewhere. He started with the basketball shoe R&D, but China's market is quite different than the Western market, right? Like in the Western markets where basketball had initially started, most players play in court, and the court is soft. Most of the court in China at the time are cement. So if you're making shoes for those floors, then you need extra absorption, and you have to make those shoes very durable because people don't switch shoes very often. And this new shoe production idea, the MVP, turned out to be very effective for Anta. They even started by sponsoring an NBA player who was the first generation, the first Chinese player who ever played NBA game.
And it's not Yao Ming.
That's not Yao Ming. His name is Mengke Bater, Bateer. He's Mongolian, Chinese. He's very tall, and he played for several teams, including the Denver Nuggets, San Antonio Spurs, and the Toronto Raptors.
Wow.
Your home team.
Never heard of him.
You never heard. He is one of the very first batch of Chinese basketball players who joined international teams. And there were some later collaborations with Anta and other NBA players. But so the collaboration with Bater was the first ever. That was not the most successful collaboration. It was kind of a trial.
I can't imagine because he's not like the star in NBA. Right?
And also think about the first NBA player, like Chinese player in the States.
Yeah.
It's navigating around a lot of ambiguity.
But at the same time, you see, you remember how much attention Yao got.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just it's too early back in the days, and there's not enough promotion, or it's the actual. I guess like Yao got really famous in China because he actually played really well in the NBA as well.
Right.
So
yeah,
a combination factor didn't work out for them first try.
Yeah.
They didn't give up after the first try didn't work. They continued to sponsor NBA, CBA.
That's right. And a few names that I can mention now are the later collaborations with NBA players that are much more mature and much better players and even prime superstars, right?
Yeah.
So after Batar in 2002, Anta collaborated with Luis Scola in 2007, and that was the first non-Chinese NBA player that they had work out. Also,
there wasn't a lot of Chinese players to pick from.
That's true. He was a solid player, but it was still not like an explosive event.
Right.
And then there's Kevin Garnett. And then came Klay Thompson in 2014, which is starting to pick up more heat. Finally, that's the Kyrie Irving, like was the Kai one.
Yeah.
Which is the
2 years
superstar.
ago.
Yeah.
But I think all the three players that you just mentioned, they're all like, in terms of popularity, they do have that in NBA followings. But the first two, with Kevin Garnett and Klay Thompson, Anta actually only sold their shoes domestically, or was targeting domestically still back then. And the price range was mid price. Versus with the latest development with Kyrie Irving, it was global marketing. Price range was,
much
I would say,
higher.
mid to high. It kind of also speaks to how much Anta has grew from 2010, which is the Kevin Garnett sponsorship, all the way to 2023. The past 13 years, they've went from domestic focus to actually looking internationally.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's consolidating that we can do basketball shoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I would say nowadays, if you look at the level of technology and comparing their basketball gear shoes to that of Nike and Adidas, it would be at par.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Now we can comfortably say that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And I would think that it wouldn't be that hard to get to par with basketball shoes, because it's not like, high tech, because manufacturing, if you remember, happens in their city. Nike and Adidas manufacturing also happens in their city.
Might as well be the same factory.
It could be
It could be next door.
right?
Yeah,
so
true.
getting R&D return when you're all in the same area and your headquarters situated in that area really helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And while Anta is dominating CBA, what did Li Ning do in the meantime? You might wonder.
What did they do?
Because they're still kind of
I
head to head at the
actually
time. Okay.
Because Li Ning was using his own popularity for a long time.
I know. These are two very different kind of startups, right? One with a, big brand, kind of like Kardashian, you have to name. And then the other one is just a, factory
gotta figure
turned
it
into a brand.
out,
You got to
yeah.
figure everything out. So Li Ning is already a household name, and it has more funding than Anta, for sure. It went for the high key sponsorship route. What did Li Ning
Who
do?
did they sponsor?
What was the most expensive sporting event in between?
Formula One. Other than Olympics?
Olympics. Yeah,
okay.
Olympics. So Li Ning was the official partner for the Chinese Olympics, sponsoring the Chinese delegation for 3 consecutive summers. Sydney 2000, Athens 2004, and of course Beijing 2008. Yeah. And do you remember in 2008, Li Ning was the torchbearer?
Yeah, so I have a story
the big
about
thing.
this.
Yeah, go for it.
So Adidas was actually the official committee sponsor. They put in, I think, 1.3 billion or somewhat,
Oh my
they put in
God.
a gigantic figure for the bid, and they got the sponsorship in the end.
Wow.
Everyone thought it was Li Ning who got the sponsorship because of the torch-bearing events.
Okay. That was confusing.
Yes.
Okay. So Adidas spent a lot of money, but Li Ning ended up taking all the credits for that.
Right.
Okay.
Because the opening ceremony torch thing was broadcasted and repeated so many times.
So that, the branding effects was thoroughly there.
Yeah,
like
that
it
was
was being held in Beijing, and, homie Li Ning is from China. So why not just broadcast it a few more times? How would that make Adidas feel?
I mean, it was I guess it was somewhat unintentional, and they are aware that Li Ning as a brand is doing the
Right.
torch bearer, but no one foresaw the replication implications of that event.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you forgot that incident that Linda and I were just talking about, you can go onto YouTube and check out the Beijing 2008 Olympic game opening, which is still pretty epic, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
Li Ning's
one of my
part,
favorites.
Li Ning's part it was directed by Zhang Yimou, right?
Yes.
And Li Ning's part is to carry the last bit of the torch and leading it up to the final cauldron, right? And so he was hanging by a very thin strip.
He was in the air, and then he was kind of like fake running
towards the fire, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of an iconic event.
And then once the fire lit up, I think it went spiral around the entire stadium or something. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Back
it
in
was
the
pretty
days.
cool.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that Li Ning did that spent a lot of money. And the other thing is Li Ning looked beyond China and started partnerships with the Spanish and Swedish Olympic committees and went to sponsor other countries in sportswear. For me, that's a bit weird, but I mean,
I think that's just like Olympics is
Just
where
wanted to-
he originated from.
that's true.
So
Wanted
he
to branch
probably,
out. Yeah.
Knew more folks in
Right.
different committees, and
Yeah.
so that's where his relationship is, and naturally that's where
Yeah.
you start from.
Right. Yeah.
I get it. But also there's been questions over and over again about the effect of Olympic sponsorship by brands. So, but regardless, I think the torch-bearing marketing effect is
there.
Yeah. It's the ROI is high on that one.
Right. The ROI is
Yeah.
proved to be not bad.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think Li Ning around 2010, skipping ahead a little bit, they've done something awful. Well, not awful, but just bad for their brand image,
What
which is
happened?
they did a rebranding kind of around that time because
Right.
they wanted to be more like Adidas and Nike for the same reasons that Anta also wants a premium image.
Right.
Because Anta and Li Ning back in the days, regardless of being a national hero for Li Ning, they were still seen as your second tier city, third tier city sport shoes brands. So their main audience is I think they call it like middle-aged dads basically. And they wanted to be more hip. They want sneakerheads to buy their shoes. The idea was good. How they carried it out was not as well. It was too early in their stage. They didn't have enough, I guess, R&D backing. They didn't have enough international reputation. So in China, they switched their logo. They basically intended the brand image switch. They changed their logo from Chinese to English. That got huge backlash, as you can,
Oh. I can see why.
And they changed their. I think the logo almost resembles they changed the look of their logo, and they changed the tagline, and they were basically signaling to their existing audience that you're too old for me, and they were asking for the new audience, hey, like, we're cool, can you like us? And the new audience that they're targeting, which is younger kids, and they're like, no, Adidas still cool, Nike's still cool.
You end up losing two groups.
Oh, so it's a good intention, but it was just not carried very well, and it was way too early in their brand building stages.
Well, suicidal. Both Li Ning and Anta IPO'd before 2010, right? So Li Ning IPO'd in 2004, and that was a huge deal because that was the first major Chinese sportswear brand to go public. And it was listed in Hong Kong Exchange in June 2004. And Anta followed that league and IPO'd in 2007.
Yeah.
That's right. And so by 2008, Olympics happened. Li Ning and Anta's annual revenue is, I'd say both of them are still at the very early stage, with Li Ning at 5.2 billion and Anta at 4.6 billion.
This is RMB.
RMB, yes,
Okay.
this is RMB. Basically, this is the two Chinese national brands competing against each other. Both IPO'd, had very different strategies. One going for the big Olympic sponsorship, and then the other one going for, I don't have that Olympic connection, but I'm going to go in for the most popular sports within China and see what are the athletes that I can work with, and not even thinking about going abroad, but just trying to conquer the domestic market. And both are on the upward trending, and then an Olympic happened, and then everyone was buying sportswear. And then, Linda, what happened?
And then Olympic fever wore off. So both of them obviously raised a lot of money during their IPO, and they've put it into R&D, put it into marketing, put it into increasing their management capability, which are all really good things. But Olympic gave them so much, I guess, confidence, because there is a buying spree of sporting wear around that period, that they thought that it was never going to wear off. And no, everybody thought it was never going to wear off. And the fact that they IPO'd mean that they need to now conduct regular finance reporting to the public on a regular basis, and that they are, and that both Wall Street and Hong Kong Stock Exchange investors are going to scrutinize their financials, and they're going to be judged on different things. So 2 events, right? Olympic wearing off means that the demand that they thought will increase over time and will never fade actually did fade. The second event, which is because they're both public, the investors are looking for things from them now, right? Which is store expansions, sales. And they're all reporting store expansions and sales, even in 2009, 2010 period, despite the user demand going down. And why is that? Is because the model that they're going with back then are wholesale models. So similar to what Adidas and Nike are doing today, most actually sporting gear manufacturers are doing today, is when you produce as a manufacturer, you don't actually sell to the end consumers.
Yeah.
That's a direct-to-customer model, the DTC model. Back then, most of their sales are done through not even only one layers, but multiple layers of middlemen. The distributors, the regional distributors, the local distributor, franchisees, etc., mom and pop shops. So they go through layers, and the first layer are, let's say, the regional distributors, and they get a discount. They get a heavy discount. So sometimes 60%. When Anta sells their bulk to the distributors, they mark the revenue. And Wall Street, Hong Kong Stock Exchange, investors look at that revenue. And they look at the store openings.
Oh, okay.
And so both numbers looked great for 2 years after the Olympics.
And then everything crashed.
Because as Anta, I will feed stuff to my wholesalers.
Of course, yeah.
Like, buy this. And the wholesalers, the first year they still bought it. The second year they're like, hey,
we have
a lot of inventory. Yeah. What are we going to do? So Anta would say, well, if you want to continue to become a regional distributor,
wow, geez.
you do have targets.
Sounds intense.
Yeah. So there are, for them, and it kind of works on both sides, right? So then Anta kind of said, we need to make our targets, help us make our targets. And this is true for every single, not just Anta, like Li-Ning, X-Step, etc. During that period of time, they were just feeding stuff, and it's something called channel stuffing. So they were stuffing their channel with things that the channel doesn't want, but ultimately the channel then have to put up with the ultimate sales of these items. And so around 2012 is when you see your mom and pop retailers piled up with old inventory, and they're just throwing it at discounts to the consumers.
Extreme discounts.
Yeah, for anyone who were in China at that period, you might have remembered that there is extreme discounts for sneakers.
It's like 100 kwai for 8 pairs of shoes.
Yes, and it looked extremely bad on the branding image, because if you go to an Anta store, which could be franchised, they were everything's on sale. And so you're training your consumers to never buy stuff at cost.
It's always on sale.
Retail price. Yeah. And so 2 years later, Anta realized and it took 2 years, actually 3 years for some companies back then, because there was no ERP. There was no modern enterprise
SaaS.
Yeah, there was no SaaS as we know it back in China. From your factory to your distributor, to your sub-distributor, to your retail shop, for the information to bounce back to you could take 6 to 7 months. By the time you collect that information saying that, oh, this pair of shoes doesn't sell well here, you might have already produced another hundreds or thousands of these pair of shoes already. You can't do anything about them, right? And the distributors will stay with you because they want the discounts.
Bad cycle.
It's a bad cycle, and somebody has to break it, because eventually everyone will break down, right? So it only started breaking down when the retailers started to go out of business, because they were sitting on the pile of inventory and they couldn't sell them. And they couldn't even sell them at the cost that they're getting it at. So Anta had two options. Either they help the channels out by buying back some of the inventory and take that one-time loss, start fresh. Or they abandon them and they're like, hey, it's your problem. You got it from us. We booked our revenue. Bye-bye.
Everyone go down. Yeah. Oh, wow.
And I think luckily most of the brands actually pick the former, because you do still need to rely on the channels that sell your stuff. Most of these brands back then are not direct to consumers, and so they need to have that long-term relationship.
Can't burn the bridge.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is where I think Anta and Li-Ning started diverge, this event, and how they handled this event. So with Anta, they realized this slightly earlier, or they acknowledged it slightly earlier, and they've reached out to their distributors, their retailers, saying that, hey, like, let us help you, let us book the loss.
We'll work on this together.
And luckily, because Anta was the slightly second-tier brand back in the days, they were selling at a heavier discount. So let's say they were giving 60% discount while Li-Ning was giving 50%. That 10% made the difference.
Makes a huge difference.
Because when I give you distributor at 40, then you can sell it at 45 and still make profit. But when I give you distributor for Li-Ning at 50,
there's not much room.
If you sell it at 45, you're making a loss, right? So that 10% made a difference. And the entire difference is about 3 times as much. So Li-Ning ended up paying 1.8 billion for 2 reasons. One is they were giving they were giving lower discounts, and 2, they reacted a lot slower. Anta only ended up suffering about 600 million RMB, so 1/3, because they reacted a little bit early. They did a few other things that were really good in hindsight, that helped them out in the long run. One is they effectively forced all of their all of their distributors, including the end retailers, to get in on their ERP system.
Right.
Everyone's connected.
That's a must.
Yes. You would think that's a must in modern day, like manufacturer to retailer relationship, but back then it took them 2 years to find out that there was no post-Olympic demand.
This is also 2010. Like, ERP isn't a thing yet. It's pretty avant-garde for him to propose that.
I think so. And they've literally forced everyone to do it, which also costed them a lot of money, because you need to train everyone to be on the same system. You need to kind of give them POS machines and everything. But the result of it is 1 year later, Mr. Ding can look from his office, or can open up his laptop from his office and see the exact sales numbers on the spot of each one of the shops that are selling Anta. And from then on, they would know what to produce and when to stop production, right? And at the same time, before Olympics, all the distributors had to purchase 7 to 8 months in advance. They had to make the 100% order, and they have to, you basically stuff it down their throat. But after this event, they were like, hey, let's share the risk. So you can order 50%, and we'll make 50, but we will have the capacity to make 100% for you. And you can follow up your orders throughout the season based on your sales.
Just-in-time production.
Exactly. So this is more similar to what you would expect from a fast fashion, right? A Zara or H&M. And they were adopting this methodology back in the day. So huge props to them on how they reacted. They basically volunteered to bail out their distributors, and they worked with them to ship some of their stuff to outlets. They created a lot of outlets. Back then is when online channels are also opening. So back then they actually dumped some of their stuff on Taobao, which now it doesn't work anymore. But back then it's actually a channel a sales channel. So in the end, 2014 is when Anta started reporting growth again.
Wow. And
they're back to, it took them 3 years, but they're back to a good trajectory and they got themselves out of it.
Correcting everything in 3 years.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive. On top of the ERP and the production control, 2 other things that they've done, which I think is quite smart, is they try to reduce the layers of franchisees in between. So instead of having like multiple layers of agencies and resellers in between, they went as DTC as possible so that they had direct management of the stores. And the other thing that they've done is they piloted, which I think is a very advanced management style. They had the headquarter send people to all the local stores, and everyone had rotation. And if the store does not meet the final sales target, it is not just the store's responsibility, but it's the headquarters management's role's responsibility for that store as well, so that people would know, how do you manage a local store?
Yeah.
I think he's very farsighted into introducing those very early on in the company.
Building that long-term relationship with your, not just your end consumers, but your end retailers, which traditional manufacturing is like, once it's out of my factory doors, is not my problem anymore.
For sure.
And that built the way to higher margins later. I think that built the way to higher margins later on.
Yeah.
But just one more note, despite all these efforts for Li-Ning and for Anta to save the industry, I guess, a lot of franchise stores, a lot of retail stores closed down during that time period, unfortunately, because they just couldn't handle that overwhelming amount of inventory. But the good news is, for the ones that did survive, they did end up clearing all their inventory so their store can look like a nice store again with, not piled up shoes on discount in front of the front door, right? So
Yeah.
That's the end of this chapter, which brings us to 2014-15 period.
Yeah, 2014-15 period, which is the first experiment with buying and operating
next chapter
a foreign brand.
Yes.
I put it very simply. I just said Fila on this chapter.
It is Fila.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. So they just came out of this crisis. They dug them out of the crisis, and they're like, what else can we do now that we have cash left over?
Think about this. If you're in a crisis, you'd be panicking because you're worried about your revenue and your profit.
Well, they got out. So I think Fila happened right when they're getting out and they know they're about to get out. And they're like, okay, now we can think about investing.
Right.
Because 2 years ago, you're like, no, we don't have money.
Any extra. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But interesting way of investing, because they could have done other things that are more domestic.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was what was on my mind when I was researching for Fila. If I had that much money and I had just got out of this and I had a few, domestic competitors, there are a couple of ways really I can be spending my money. Like, where do I choose to be putting my effort in?
So
what do you think that is?
I'm not sure. He probably talked to some of his I'm guessing he talked to a PE bro, and PE bro's like, acquire.
Yeah, that's the assumption. But why don't I share a bit more about Fila, and then we can go into that deal. So Fila, as you may have heard, is an Italian brand. Fila is founded in 1911 in this place called Biella. It's in the middle of 3 cities, Torino, Milano, and Zermatt.
Okay.
so it's in
2 Italian. Okay.
2 Italian and 1 Switzerland city, yeah. And it used to be a manufacturer for underwear and textile. Yeah, it's very interesting. And it pivoted to sportswear in 1973. When it pivoted to sportswear, it was on tennis.
Fila did tennis?
Yeah, Fila did tennis. And this tennis legend was called Bjorn Borg. And that was the earliest endorsement that Fila had got. When Fila went into a different market, it pivoted from tennis to footwear. So when it entered the US, it became a footwear brand. And in 1995, in the US, Fila was America's fastest growing footwear brand. So it also pivoted quite a few times. Later on, it quickly declined in 1990s to the early 2000s because Fila had overcommitted to very expensive athlete endorsements. I guess the same like Olympic committee kind of route, putting too much money on sponsorship.
I saw them in the last Olympics.
Yeah. So it went into decline. And this brand was then owned by another Italian chemical company, and then a fiat-controlled company passed on to a few ones, and finally it was being sold to a U.S. hedge fund called Cerberus Capital Management in 2003. Okay. Fila Korea bought Fila Global in 2007 because Fila Global was in a very bad shape, and it was a 400 million LBO. But that didn't get Fila anywhere either. And it was still struggling a lot as a sports brand. China's right for Fila were sold to Bell International in 2007.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
Yeah. Bell paid the equivalent of 48 million US dollar, right, to have Fila trademarked in China.
So the Korean Fila, which owns the global brand, sold
Fila
the
China
portion of the rights to Bell International.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And 3 years afterwards, Fila China under Bell International opened in total 50 stores in China and had a 32 million Hong Kong dollar loss in profit.
Wow.
Yes. And the venture was a complete disaster, and Bell even admitted this in a public statement that it made. It says, it transpires that specific skill set and experience required to develop an international sports brand are different from Bell's experience in developing footwear brands and managing sportswear distribution network in the PRC.
Okay. But Bell is a footwear brand.
I know. It's very interesting. Bell was a retailer. Bell was not a brand builder. But Bell is very interesting. Let's just take a look at Bell very quickly. Bell International is a footwear brand in China. And it started off in the 80s in Hong Kong and was, founded by this guy from Hong Kong called Deng Yao. And he officially established the brand in Shenzhen, mainland China. And it was expanding all over in retail spaces, and it attracted a lot of significant investment from various firms, including there's Morgan Stanley, there's CDH Investment, Dinghui. And in 2007, Bell International went public because it sold so many shoes. It was an OEM. It was listed on Hong Kong Stock Exchange. China's consumer market was also starting to boom, so there were more people buying shoes in malls. And Bell International primarily had 2 sets of brands that it manages. One is its own brands like Bell, Staccato, Teen Mix, Tata, Joy and Peace, blah, blah, blah.
These are like female leather shoes.
Female leather shoes. You can still find them on Taobao these days. And then the other bit are the licensed or the distributed brands that it carries from the outside, right? Like there's Spada, there's Clark's, Hush Puppies, Caterpillar, and others. And as a kid who grew up in the 90s and going into malls, all of these brands that I just mentioned occupies like 80% of the entire women's shoe floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And
was
I think
my
they also
memory.
distribute Nike and Adidas at some point too, right?
You are absolutely right. You're onto something here. So the most valuable part that got spun out of Bell International was a company that's called Top Sport. Does that ring a bell to you?
The distributed.
Remember they got
Sorry,
listed
got
in no. They got listed in Hong Kong. You're onto something here. It's great. So they're listed in Hong Kong as stock exchange, but because of the e-commerce blossom with Alibaba and Jingdong, JD.com, people quickly shifted from offline to online. So department stores were losing a lot of same-store sales.
Right.
So in 2017, Bell International was really struggling because they're not selling shoes at physical stores anymore. And there was a consortium led by Hill House Capital, and CDH that they privatized Bell International and delisted Bell from the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And 2 years after that, Bell spun off its sportswear division, and that division is called Top Sports.
This is already 2019.
2019.
Okay, so this is way after the whole Fila thing.
Yeah, this is way after that. So, but Top Sports was spun out.
Right.
But it is still related because Top Sports carry Nike and Adidas.
Yes.
And it is likely the largest channel sales for Nike and Adidas in China.
So Bell back then, right, had shoe brands that they own. They had distribution channel of sport shoes.
That they don't know how to sell.
Well, no, but they had
Yeah, they had a
to
branch.
distribute Nike
Yeah.
and Adidas, but they didn't know how to take care of Fila, which is like what happened.
So I think Fila was a DTC high margin brand that requires a lot of brand building, but Bell's expertise was in channel sales. And even Nike and Adidas, if you're taking Top Sports, prior to 2019, that was mostly channel sales. There was not a lot of brand making for Nike and Adidas.
Well, also Nike and Adidas took care of their branding.
Here's a fun thing that I've discovered. So in China, Nike and Adidas, let's just take 2024's annual revenue as an example. So Nike and Adidas total annual revenue in China is about 11 billion in total, and Top Sports would take up about 33% of that,
That's a lot.
which is large.
Yeah.
And Nike Adidas direct DTC bid also takes up about, 35, a little over that,
Right.
around that. So it's about the same share.
Yeah.
And the rest would be with other distributors. One good example that we both physically experience is if you were to go to Salomon, you can see Top Sports store on the west side of Salomon, like the new shop that's close to Uniqlo. There is a huge decent Adidas Nike store, but if you go to the cashier, they will give you a Top Sport bag. So these stores are operated by Top Sports.
Oh.
But if you were to be going to Salomon North, where the SKUs are typically at a higher price point,
The high-end part.
the high-end part is the DTC bit for Nike and Adidas.
But they're the same shop. They're like two.
They're in the rough same location, different shops with slightly different SKUs and different images. One goes for scale and the other one goes for brand.
Interesting.
Yeah. Top Sports started to improve its own sales experience after the 2019 spun off. And before that, it was more like a channel.
Because when they managed Fila during the 3 years that they owned, it was just a disaster, right? They were losing money every year. And the thing is, when Anta took over, it took them 3 to 4 years to generate like 1 billion of revenue. What did Anta do though? That's different from Bell. One is they put Gao Yuanyuan, which is our Natalie Portman, on the map, right? As a sponsor. They put all the shops next to Nike and Adidas, so you would see them in the first floor of most department shops. Bell International, if I remember correctly, they distributed through those department stores, like the old 90s style department stores. So that's very different from putting it. First floor department stores are very different from first floor of shopping malls.
Yeah, that's right.
In terms of brand recognition. And then putting a name to it, making some high-end stories about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to Fila, Ding Shizhong, Mr. Ding, saw that, okay, I don't want Anta to hit a ceiling in sales, right?
Yeah.
I need to do something. At that time, Anta has really dominated the mass market.
Yeah.
But it wants urban population.
Yes.
Like it wants
Beijing and Shanghai top shopping mall.
Exactly. It wants to occupy like good branding spaces.
Yeah.
So it's either that I create a premium brand on my own, or I
just buy one.
Yeah, I just buy one.
Make it more premium than it already is.
Or I tweak it.
And I think going back, I don't know if they took Li Ning's failure in 2010 as a learning point, because they could have used Anta, original Anta. That wouldn't work because they already had that brand, and its brand image is all like second tier city, cheaper sports gear. Whereas Fila, even though when they bought it, it was a good brand, but it wasn't like what it is now.
It's dying at the time.
but it was, it was kind of like your Puma, Nike, Adidas,
True.
like status wise.
Right.
It was a good performance. Like you would expect to see it at a top end shopping mall.
For sure,
right?
for sure. Yeah.
Whereas not for Anta. Like in Anta, you would expect to see it on the street in a second tier city. So what they've perfected is they've upped the brand image even more with sponsorships, but they also went completely DTC. They realized if it's a premium brand, I can cut the middleman. For 3 years, they did not disclose, after buying in 2009, they did not disclose any of the revenues profit for Fila until 2014 when they finally made profit.
Interesting.
On purpose, because during those 3 years, they were restructuring.
Interesting.
They were like taking out a lot of capital expenditure on the retail sites. They were renovating, and they were, spending a lot of money. So if I were to put this segment of the business as its individual segment in my financial report, it would look really bad for the first 3 years.
Right.
And just going forward a little bit, they did this a couple of times with other brands. They did exactly the same thing. No financial report after acquisition for 3 years, and all of a sudden it's making crazy revenue.
Can you not disclose when you...
Because it's their own business segment, so they can
Right.
bunch it up in others.
Okay. So it wouldn't be as obvious.
They can't they have to disclose the revenue. It's
Of
just
course.
how you categorize
Gotcha,
it.
Gotcha. Oh, interesting. So they disguised it.
Until
at-
until
and
it looked good.
It's on its own, like
Yes.
making profit. Well, that's kind of smart. Let's start on the Fila deal. I think at the beginning, when I saw that, how much that deal cost, what a great buy. It's a very cheap deal. What a great buy.
Yeah.
It's roughly, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's a little over 300 million RMB, right? In 2009, right? And then what happened? I think you already touched on a point, which they started right away, which is the direct retail channel, right? So that was switching from wholesale distributors to every Fila store is directly operated by Anta. And one other thing that they've done, which I think is very smart, Mr. Ding himself is very good at branding. He knows that he wants to build this brand into a sports fashion brand or something high-end. He wants to use that as a leverage to increase the value for Fila. So the older Fila would say, oh, hey, I'm a tennis brand. But the new Fila, the Anta Fila, would say, I am a high-end fashion brand that has a sports heritage in it,
Yeah.
So, and it's targeting the urban elites,
Yes.
the urban middle class, focusing on, you're not just going to the gym, you're looking good. and going to the gym.
Yes.
So that's kind of the magic that Mr. Ding sprinkled on Fila, and which is, I think now is called athleisure, right?
It was the rise of athleisure time.
At the time, yeah. He also hired designers from luxury fashion backgrounds, not just the sports design backgrounds, and did collaborations to make Fila not just functional, but cool.
Yeah, like its positioning nowadays is more fashion than sports almost, I would say. Mm-hmm. Like you don't go to Fila for any technical sportswear.
No,
for sure. It's almost, it's definitely more of a fashion brand than a sports brand. Its brand image in China, at least.
That's right. So after 2014, that's when Fila had its explosive growth, right? So I think in 2018, the revenue of Fila itself surpassed 10 billion RMB. It keeps going up.
It just keeps, and it's flattening out a little bit, but it's still growing. It still grew last year. And it's known to be the cash cow. It actually surpassed the core Anta brand around 2019. The other thing they did was, you mentioned DTC, right? And they went all DTC, and the byproduct of that is margin increase, because once you cut the distributors, you are getting all of your markup as your margin.
Wow.
And so margin, I didn't know what margin they were operating on when they took over from Bell, but when they started to release in their financial report in 2014, it was around 50%. 50% is where Anta is the low-end brand. This is gross margin, by the way.
Right.
So 50% is where Anta as a low-end brand is at right now. So
which is still not bad.
2014, they were at 50%. And right now, they're almost, for the last 7-8 years, they've stabilized at 70%.
70%.
70.
Gross profit margin.
Gross profit margin. And so it's one of the highest, and it's, it's almost like, luxury brand gross margin type.
That is luxury market for profit margin.
And it's not going to fall because they already built this brand image, right? And they've already gone completely DTC. And so the same pattern, you'll see the exact same copy and paste they've done over and over again.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you were acquiring it, it was still nobody. It was 50 million RMB in 2009, the total revenue. And in 2024, that number is close to 27 billion RMB in revenue.
Yeah. So by
500 times growth.
And I think by 2014-15, they realized that they have succeeded, right? They've confirmed by revenue, by margin increase, that this is a viable business model.
Yeah. To
acquire, to go DTC, to redesign, to build a better brand image, build a more luxurious brand image, and then to release it in the Chinese market. And they've done it again in 2016. 2016 with two brands. Actually, 2014 is when they reach out to dissect, which is the Japanese snowboard, like a snowboard. I know it for snowboard, but I think it's just winter sports in general brand. And then Colin Sport in Korea, which is an outdoor brand. Back to back, the deal happened. I think they reached out 2014-15, and then the deal happened 2015-16. And both are, they're like in the 100 to 200 million range. So slightly more than what they paid for Fila, but still much, much cheaper than their later acquisitions. And the same story happened over again. First 3 years, they were reporting losses. They were investing in DTC. They were turning things around. And magic, fourth year, everything goes into positive regions. They're profitable, and then they increase the margin for the next 5 years after that.
I think at this point, Anta is just a PE now, right?
It is.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
It has shown its ability to buy something really undervalued and turn it into something really valuable.
so at this point, I think they're in the beginning stage of a PE. Their next purchase is where I think it was just financial masterpiece.
Let's go. I've been waiting for this moment for an hour and a half.
Okay.
Let's go.
Right. So 3 purchases they've done. The 3 purchases are Fila 2029. Dissect is actually 2016, not 15.
That's right.
Anta Sports 2017, not 16.
Yep.
They've bought either completely or a large majority percentage stake of their Chinese business. So they've only took the right to sell in China from these brands.
That's also very smart.
Because they're good at operating in China, right? Because they don't have that, either they don't have that international expansion capabilities yet, or they don't have that ambition yet. So they're testing the waters with what they know best, which is domestic China. Then after 3 of these acquisitions, I guess they are like, we're good at this. Maybe we should do something big. So this something big is called Amer Sports.
Real big.
And it's not just marginally big.
On my chapter, it says big buy. Go.
So with Fila, I think they paid $55 million. With Dissect and Colon, they paid, it was like 100 something RMB, not even dollars. So it was like even lower. With Amer Sports, the total valuation was at 4.6 billion euro. Anta by themselves paid 1.5 billion in cash. This is just the cash portion. And obviously this doesn't add up, right? So they need other folks. It was way too big. They were way too big for Anta to take on by themselves. So Mr. Ding reached out to his friends.
Hey, buddy. Got some cash?
Put together a group. And luckily, he got some cash-rich friends. So one of them is called Fountainvest, which is a PE firm. Fountainvest took up another 400-ish million euro. There's another guy whose name is Chip Wilson, who is actually the second biggest investor in this group of investors. And he put up 550 million-ish euros. And he is actually the founder of Lululemon, which is, as you've mentioned, among the top 4 sportswear brands. So in terms of capitalization. The 4th party that's in this consortium actually only took out a 5% small share for 150 million euros, and that's Tencent. And so each 4 parties had a specific role to play. So this is a great group that he's put together. This
is like engineering level of deal making.
So Anta had the China know-how, had the manufacturing capabilities, has experience in terms of acquisition and rebranding and turning things around. Fountainvest is the PE firm. So they know how to structure deals, how to make the best of your acquisition. Chip Wilson is the marketing genius globally, which actually Anta at the time didn't really have global marketing know-how. So they needed an international partner. And I think that's where Lululemon and Chip Wilson came in. And then lastly, Tencent, because the deal is done in 2019, everything was going digital. You needed a digital partner to make all of your online platform purchases, payments, and everything possible. And that's where Tencent comes in. So with this group of folks, they put together a total of 2.7 billion euro of cash, right? To put this together, Anta actually had to take out a loan on their own company to make this happen. So this is how how the size difference is. Anta couldn't purchase themselves. They even have to take out a loan to make the financing.
It's a large buy.
Not only that, this is again an LBO, which you've mentioned earlier. This is leveraged buyout, meaning even at 2.7, it's not even close to the 4.6 valuation. So what they had to do is they had to find another investment firm to give them a loan to increase the debt of Amer Sport by a lot. And this is LBOs are actually highly risky because you increase the debt of Amer Sports as a company because you want to take it private, right? And by taking this debt, Amer Sports then have an extra interest payment every year that is in the hundreds of millions.
Wow.
So how confident do you have to be in your ability to generate revenue after taking this over to make sure that every year you have to put up with extra money for the interest, right?
You have to be pretty confident.
Exactly. And not only that, so the 3 billion of debt that this consortium took on, euro, it's broken down into two parts. So the one part is 1.7, which is the majority of it, actually is taken out by Amer Sports. So they eventually have to then pay it back using their sales. There's another 1.7 billion. It's actually 1.3 billion. The remaining 1.3 billion is taken out by the consortium, not Amer Sports itself. I'm guessing the reason is the 1.3 billion required another level of guarantee. The lender probably refused the 3 billion upfront. So they're like, we need more physical goods to be put down as collateral for us to give you the money. This is me guessing what happened, but Anta, as the biggest shareholder of this consortium, then had to guarantee this portion of the debt. So what this means is that if Amer Sports fail to pay up interest, Anta the bank can take Anta properties.
High risk.
Like we said, high probability all in. So
sums it up really well.
So this is what happened, and there's a lot of risk. He put $1.3 billion, right? Plus, actually, of the 1.6 cash that Anta paid, Anta actually took out another 900 million of loans. So overall, it's almost feeling like your capability or your cash flow is not there to take on this giant, but you want to do it because you have full confidence of what you can do with it after buying it, and you have a lot of confidence in your operational rigor and your ability to do the rebranding.
The more leverage, the more confidence. And with the previous cases, I think it would give you somewhat of a confidence in operating things like that. But is it that much?
But it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's like, a lot.
I don't know, $2 billion worth a lot.
It's a lot.
But at the same time, I think even I looked at Amer Sports' previous financials, they were a healthy company. So that's why I think it's also a high probability gamble. It's a gamble, but with a high probability of winning. There's a very low chance of Anta ever getting called to, getting their property confiscated. Yeah.
Interesting. To back you off on the Amer Sports being a legitimate, very tasteful company, it is, well, first of all, a Finnish company, right? And its original name is called Amer Tupakka, which is tobacco in Finnish. It started off as a tobacco company. Later, it was in shipbuilding and shipmaking.
That was very random.
And it was in publishing business. And in 1986, it started to acquire sportswear and more athletic-related brands and products, and has changed its name in 2004 officially into Amer Sports. And one thing that I've noticed about this company is all the way from 1986 to 2018, all they've been buying are premium sports brand. that they don't know how to operate, or they're not aggressively operating them. They've got a few very good brands. Wilson, which is a tennis brand that they've acquired in 1989, and Atomic, which is a ski brand from Austria. It's kind of the go-to brand for most of
they
the
sponsor
Austrians.
Guiling, I think.
Yeah. That's right. And Sunto, which is the Finnish dive equipment watch brand. I actually considered buying one a while ago, but I ended up buying a Garmin. And Salomon and Arc'teryx. And here's a sarcastic thing. In 2005, Amer bought Salomon and Arc'teryx from Adidas. And Adidas sold them because Adidas thinks these two brands are too small, too niche, and too hard to make a market of.
Well,
They've
you
lost
look
the
at
deal.
that. Well, you look at that.
Yeah, and so Amer Sports apparently has got like all these killer brands. They've hoarded them all the way from 1986 to 2000s, but don't know what's the best way to play these cards. And Anta found them and made this consortium and started operating. And here's one interesting thing that I found in the acquisition documents. Anta's rationale for what makes Amer Sports attractive and why is Anta Sports a good fit to buy them. And in the response, it says, Amer Sports is a leading sporting good company with a strong portfolio of internationally recognized brands. That's true.
Yeah.
They've had a few. The investor consortium is excited to bring these premium international brands and products to the Chinese consumers who increasingly seek high-end products with outstanding qualities and heritage in various niche and specialized sporting segments. Therefore, the investor consortium believe it's a good fit and has great potential, hence the leverage. So I think this paragraph is drafted beautifully. It explains everything.
They know from their previous acquisition that this is going to work, and that back then it's full confidence to Chinese investment because it's in an environment where things are just increasing. I think probably at the tail end, but still a very good timing because GDP has been growing, 7-8%, maybe 6% around the time. And so it was a pretty good bet. And the fact that they realized that the Chinese consumer actually have an appetite for these stuff.
Exactly.
So I saw in there, spoiler, Amer Sport IPO'd at 2024. During their IPO interview, the CEO of Amer Sport then commented that their share, because the host asked if they would be impacted by the whole tariff thing, right? And so the CEO commented that no, we won't be impacted because only 20% of our goods are sold in the US. So they're actually pretty heavy in China. After taking them over, they've really increased their sale, but mainly in China. And of the 20%, only I think a small portion of that is manufactured in China. So they wouldn't be hit by the tariff anyways. From at least the portion that they know, which is how to grow the China portion of the business, they're already seeing profits. So whatever that comes in the international branding is extra, right? And they brought in Lululemon genius for that. So whatever comes in is extra, and they managed to hit some of that extra as well, which brought them all the way to IPO. But an interesting story about IPO, they were short. They were a little bit short in terms of how many people wanted to buy their shares during IPO, and it was really dangerous because Anta, remember, they took on this $1.3 billion guarantee of the debt. They need to get rid of that guarantee as soon as possible because it's kind of like a noose hanging around their neck, and they could only, well, not the only, but one of the ways they could do it is through IPO money. So when the US investors, or when they get listed, investors like, maybe not us, but like us, would put in money, and that money would then go toward the payment of that portion of the debt, which releases Anta of their guarantor status. That's the whole purpose of the IPO. And they initially thought that they could sell $16 to $17 for the share price, and it went down all the way to 13
Oh, that's
because
not
it
good.
was undersubscribed, partially because it is a Chinese company and there is a lot of,
Geopolitics.
geopolitics involved. There's actually a lot of short seller reports going on at the moment at that time, saying that don't get fooled, it's not going to work, blah blah blah. So this didn't. So they were undersubscribed. They had to lower the price to $13, which they eventually sold. But they have to put in, so out of the entire share pool that got released, about 15% of it is bought by Anta. They had to put in about $220 million of their own money to make sure this IPO goes through so that they can release themselves of the guarantor strap. Exactly. So there's so many instances where it
Made it through though. It.
They're now, I think the capitalization for Amer Sports is at least 10 billion.
Let's see where they're at this afternoon. When I was checking it, Amer Sports is at 20.59 billion this afternoon at a price of 37.13 per share.
Okay, and so after the IPO dilution, Anta still owns 40% share, at least 40% because they bought part of the IPO. Which if it's at 20, let's say 20 billion, 40%, that's 8 billion. They put in 1.6 initially, so 1.6 to 8 billion. But with all kinds of risks that they took on.
But it turns out it worked. It was very successful. Like some of the brands under Amer became the flagship brands of the new middle class. That are so loved by the Chinese middle class.
So in CBD, Beijing, people stopped showing up in suits, but people start showing up in Arc'teryx for meetings. That's when you know you've made it.
They call it the 3 favorite brands of the new middle age people in Tier 1 city: Patagonia, Lululemon, and Arc'teryx.
Wow.
So Arc'teryx had a drastically different image than before, because in the US, I remember Arc'teryx is something that's sold in REI, which is just a general kind of a wholesaler vibe, friendly.
I used to be able to afford it a lot.
Yeah. And now it's all DTC.
It was just a hiking gear, and now it's like luxury.
Now it's next to Chanel and Gucci.
I know.
Yeah. Things have changed. And since Amer Sports brand got managed by Anta, Arc'teryx's membership went from 14,000 in China in 2019 to 1.7 million in 2023, and it's still growing. That is
good job.
A significant growth. Yeah, so Amer Sports, good job. That is definitely a deal that went on explosive. So Anta bought it for 4.6 billion.
The consortium bought it at the value of that, but they ended up spending 5.7 in total. And part of it is financed by the debt.
And Chip Wilson went in at around 21% with an establishment that's called Enarmored Investment. And that's
his investment company.
His investment company.
Yeah.
That's right. Just to call out on another part of that consortium, which is called Fountainvest, right?
The PE firm?
The PE firm. These are so
they?
interesting. We might as well, in the future, just do separate episodes on, Hill House, Fountainvest, because they're so interesting. And then they're so interrelated with each other. I started researching on it, and it's a rabbit hole. I'm not going to do the whole
What's
story.
the short version?
The short version comes. So Fountainvest is established in 2007 in Hong Kong. It is a China-focused private equity firm. The chairman and the CEO of Fountainvest is Frank Tang, who is a Goldman Sachs veteran. After Goldman, he went to work for a Singaporean investment firm, a PE, called Temasek Holdings. And Temasek is... How would you describe Temasek?
It's one of the sovereign wealth fund of Singapore.
That's right. So Temasek is a sovereign fund. So for FountainVest, there are a few major initial investors for FountainVest, and of which are Temasek Holdings, obviously, because Frank used to work there, and CPP Investment Board, which is Canada Pension Fund.
Yep.
And Ontario Teachers Pension Fund.
So as a Canadian, I can explain a little bit.
Please do, because I don't understand.
So these two are actually very well managed investment funds, the top in Canada, and a lot of our really good finance talents actually end up working in these two funds.
Right.
They are they have equivalent status of sovereign wealth funds, and among all of it globally, they're ranked at the top constantly.
Interesting.
Yeah. So my pension is well managed.
Jealous. The investment thesis for FountainVest is they target industry leaders and emerging leaders in China, and typically investing $50 million to $150 million in growth stage companies. And they typically look at operational improvements over a 3 to 7 year holding period to create long-term value, which I think fits Amer Sports.
Exactly what
that.
Amer Sports is looking at. Yeah.
Found all the right stakeholders and it came in at a right time. And some of the most noticeable deals that FountainVest have invested in are, well, Amer Sports aside, there's Focus Media, 分众传媒, the advertising company that goes in every single elevator in China.
Oh.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. And Key Safety System, that one I have not heard about. Maybe I'll do more research in the future. Sina, 新浪微博, and Papa John's, DQ China.
Oh, they're good.
Yeah, they're good. They've got all the very interesting deals.
DQ is actually doing quite well in terms of store numbers.
Yeah. Back to Amer Sports, right?
Yes.
It's a good buy and made a lot of money.
And you notice the time period again. 2019 is when they bought it, right?
And 4 years after.
Exactly.
The magic of 4 years.
And 4 years is only when they started to release the earnings back then. But then for the 5 year period after the 4 years, so the next 3 to 4 years is when they really increased the margin. So I think we can still see more growth out of Amer Sports if they repeat their pattern. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Magical that they were able to deliver any deal at any size in 4 years.
Well, my question is, how many are there that are left that are underpenetrated in China that you can improve with DTC and branding?
That is within your buy range.
Right. Because
not many.
we just looked through the top 10, right? Lululemon is off the table. They do pretty good branding themselves. What else are there that are of size that they can purchase to?
Yeah. Honestly, I think the top 10 may be a bit too expensive for them, but who knows? Recently, as I was checking the news as of a couple of days ago, there are rumors of Anta looking into buying Puma, and Puma is currently at a relatively reasonable valuation, market cap, right now. But if that were to materialize, let's just give it 4 years and see what happens.
Yeah. And Jack Wolfskin as well.
Right.
I think they're not going to stop on their buying spree because if they still have huge cash available right now. Their overall inventory turnover is higher than most companies, but only because they're in a DTC model. So they're calculating the turnover from factory to retail. So overall, everything's healthy. They're generating great revenue. Fila is the cash cow. Additionally, Anta is the main brand. They've done more DTC activities over the past 4 years. So they increased their margins. They bought back some of the retail stores to own themselves. So their margin increased further by 15% to 55%. And so all of this means extra cash sitting on their books that they could put in to other investments. So I feel like they will continue for the time being until they absolutely run out of things.
Just but unlikely.
You
don't know.
So in domestic China, I feel like it will penetrate at some point. Also, having lived here for a few years, we know that economy is not doing well this year. It might not recover next year.
For the consumer.
Right? So for them, the high-end market, yes, is growing right now, but maybe there will be a cap in terms of growth. And so they might have to look elsewhere. And the trend right now with Chinese brands is to look elsewhere outside of China. They've done some of that. We hinted on some of that with NBA. So they did a really good job snatching Kyrie Irving from Nike. And if you want to read about it, there's a lot of drama. But I'm not going to go into this. There's a lot of drama. And the Kai one, which is the first series that they put out, made huge success in the US or in like global markets, which is also something that Anta hasn't done before. They're really good at taking things and selling them domestically in China. They haven't really proven themselves abroad. So maybe starting with Taiwan, it could be a turning point again, that they're exploring the next phase, because I'm sure they have to think about buyout, this whole, merger and acquisition buyout business model ending at some point, right, or diminishing return at some point.
Right.
And so maybe the next thing they want to do is global expansion.
Global market.
Yeah.
They always wanted that, I think. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it with the NBA. They just keep trying with NBA stars. And finally, like the Taiwan worked out perfectly.
Exactly.
So the Amer Sports deal made, I think in total, about $1.1 billion in value just in a couple of years. And that also made Anta officially the world's third largest sportswear company.
Actually, interestingly, I was looking at financials from 2024. They are, if you put Anta and Amer Sports together, they're number 3 in terms of revenue. But guess, in terms of net profit, they're actually number 2. They're way ahead of Adidas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're almost double Adidas.
Wow.
I mean, Nike is way up there as well. So they're probably just going to stay at number 2 in terms of net profit.
Due to, DTC and brand management get them the profit margin. Yeah,
their profit margin is crazy and they're increasing. And I think it's so different that, with Nike, with all of their competitors, whether it's Nike, Adidas, Lululemon, Li Ning, it's all single brands, right? So you put a lot of risk onto the brand image of one item. True. Whereas for them, it's they're not even a sports brand nowadays. They're like a conglomerate of sports. They're like a
LVMH of
exactly
sportswear.
Exactly. Yeah.
Portfolios.
A portfolio of sportswear.
Kering.
And they're gonna build this, and it's when you build a portfolio, you actually de-risk your company, right? So if, let's say, Anta, second-tier city, stop buying, you have maybe Fila, which is your fashion brand. Yeah. And then if people are not doing fashion anymore, you have your outdoor technical brands.
You have diversified your audience.
Yes.
Every single group of people will make you some money.
Exactly.
And they're going international, as you said.
And there's a huge pie internationally. I do think they'll have a little bit of trouble going internationally as a Chinese-based company, as most do. But we've also talked about some good examples in our previous episodes, like Pop Mart, right? So there might be something to it. And to the NBA basketball sneakers, ever since 2014, they seem to play the game right and really going somewhere with Klay Thompson and Kyrie Irving. Sorry, Kyrie Irving. It's Kai. Yeah,
it's
we
Kai.
obviously don't.
We obviously
watch
don't.
Basketball.
Yeah. Klay Thompson, back in the days when he was with the Golden State Warriors, he won. The Warriors won 3 championships in 4 years right after Anta signed with Klay Thompson. And KT1 got viral, right? Yeah. And 10 million pairs of shoes were sold in that decade from 2014 to 2024. And the Kyrie Irving shoe was the first NBA superstar that they collaborated with. And Kyrie apparently ditched Nike and Adidas.
There was 2 things. He was already unhappy with their designs a year before they broke. But what actually happened is Nike broke the deal with Kyrie because he posted something on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so
That was sensitive.
not happy relationship. All right.
Not a happy breakup. And so actually, maybe we can talk about it because Anta has a special positioning compared to Nike and Adidas. He posted a link of a movie that is anti-Semitic. And obviously Nike need to PR manage. And so the decision actually is to contain the risk and drop the athlete.
Yeah.
Anta doesn't have these issues.
Limitations.
Because they're Chinese.
Oh my God. I honestly don't know what to say right now.
Right?
Yes, definitely not limited by that.
I don't know how appropriate or inappropriate or if we should be talking about this, but Anta didn't have those limitations and Anta saw a business opportunity.
Yeah, well, jumped onto it.
Yeah.
Speaking of business opportunity, one thing I have to mention, which is the Winter Olympics in 2022.
Oh.
Do you remember that? Did you? It was during COVID time in Beijing. Were you there? Were you in Beijing?
I would. Yes.
Okay, you were in Beijing. Did you watch any of it?
I watched all of it.
Did you watch the opening ceremony?
Yes.
Okay, there were so many Anta moments in that opening ceremony. Did you notice that?
Nope. Sorry.
So, talking about the biggest winner of the Winter Olympics in 2022.
Lululemon. What are you talking about?
Okay. Oh my God. Okay, Lululemon was definitely a hit. Like everyone was in maroon red. Okay, beautiful, good looking.
But in China, it was Anta.
But in China, it's definitely Anta. Think about this. There was a list that's made out of which brand won the most medals.
Oh,
the opening ceremony was all about fashion show.
Yes.
It was all about like good looking athletes in, beautiful winter sportswear. Dissent from Japan had a medal totaling 52 for Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
Fila had 50 and Anta had 29. So I'm not even counting all the other brands.
So basically Anta Group won.
Anta Group 1, Anta itself got 131 medals. Just think about the exposure of that.
Yeah.
Like if all the athletes ended up doing commercials and whatever social media gigs after the Winter Olympics in 2022, let's be honest, that's the biggest winner of Winter Olympics is Anta. And I think Mr. Ding started planning that way early on. When did he acquire Dissent?
2016,
16,
yeah.
And when did he acquire Amer Sports?
17.
And both of those are
winter sports.
Are winter sportswear, right?
Wow.
And Amer Sports also has a bunch of winter sportswear. Arc'teryx. President Xi was wearing Arc'teryx in 2022 Winter Olympics.
Wow.
With no logo on it. And that winter jacket, that Arc'teryx jacket was sold out.
They taped the logo?
No, it was a very low key one.
Icon.
No, it wasn't. But it was just all black, very clean cut. It shows like a slim figure. It's such a nice jacket. I think it's must have been like 20,000 RMB or somewhere around that. But it was such a nice jacket. It was sold out.
$3,000 US dollars.
Yeah,
and sold out.
After the Winter Olympics opening ceremony, that jacket was sold out in the entirety of China. You cannot buy it anywhere.
I have to say the Chinese purchasing power is a bit crazy.
Quite strong in terms of buying Arc'teryx.
Like the entirety of it.
I think is what we call a deal engineering.
Yes.
You buy the things, you make the market, and you make it rain.
Yeah.
And that's how you pay back the debt.
Oh man, that was crazy because any misstep during those 5 years they're gone. Like they're not gone, but they will
be so much in debt.
It would be very detrimental.
Yes, it would be detrimental.
Line, let's say, yeah.
Anta's investment in Winter Olympics is about 1.2 billion RMB, right? But it paid off. Like everything that came back in return is projected, whether it's the brand or the sales, it's over 1 trillion RMB in 2025. That 2022 Winter Olympics was a big showcase for everything Anta related.
Yeah.
I was going to look for 2024 Paris Olympics. But I mean, after the Winter Olympics, I think that's the highest
They're
point, the
not-
peak.
yeah.
There's no way that you're exceeding that.
We talked about most of the stuff that they've done, right? Do you see any risk in what they're trying to do right now or what they're pursuing?
The biggest risk that I discovered was that even if they're going to the international market, that's not their specialty. Their specialty is operating within China.
Yes.
Right.
I think that's the biggest risk as well.
And going to whether it's the US or the European market takes more than just buying the brand.
Yeah.
You need to understand the local market. And I don't know how much they understand the local market. And if they were to be integrating more to those international markets, just imagine there will be like Arc'teryx US, but with Chinese management. Ooh.
So right now,
Or like a blend.
Yeah. So right now, Amer Sports, other than the CEO, I think upper management is still quite mixed. I don't know how much they're going to shift, but yeah, you're right. I think it's a very difficult thing to get right.
Yeah.
The balance. And the other thing is 2021 is when the Xinjiang cotton happened.
Right.
And so there was a huge domestic boost for Anta sales because they've sided firmly with
siding with the
China,
national
basically.
sentiments.
Exactly,
yes.
national sentiments, and that resulted in sales, right? And so because they own such different brands abroad, there was no repercussion in its other brands that are getting sales abroad, because it's hard to maintain favor on both sides, right? Once you side with one side, you might get repercussions on the other ones. I think Anta haven't got the least of it because of their portfolio strategy. But at some point, I feel like with geopolitical tensions, it's going to be very hard. Well, even if they don't, you have to play this game very evenly and very carefully.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the other risks I see as well, because it just takes one tweet from one person to make everyone dig up your history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for consumer-facing brands, you have to do your social media and your PR right to be able to really get the heart of your audience.
And they're really on balancing on both sides because they do want both sides of the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We shall see. Since Anta IPO'd in 2007 till 2025, the market cap went from $280 million to 30 billion, right? And that is 107
100 more times.
100 more times fold increase.
I've owned zero of this stock. Again.
Still time. One thing that I'm very impressed with Anta is they somehow always focused on the next thing that they're going to do. They are never bothered by the temporary volatility of the market, and I respect that a lot. That also changed the world order of sportswear. Nike and Adidas weren't the only companies that are leading the race.
Yeah.
There is a quiet giant that is rising
on their
up
back.
fast.
Anta's total company gross margin, because they're doing so well with gross margin management, 62%, Adidas 51%, Nike 45%. So Anta is actually top of their game compared to the two giants. In terms of growth rate, Anta also grew at a slightly faster rate than the two last year. So Nike's a bit far off, but I can see a future where Anta might be head-to-head with Adidas. They already surpassed in terms of gross profit, but not so much in terms of market capitalization and revenue. So maybe at some point in the near future. What was your Italian joke?
Oh, my Italian joke was the... Oh, okay.
We don't have to put this in.
It wasn't like an Italian joke, but Fila isn't the only Italian brand that is doing well in China. There are some other Italian brands.
Which one?
Ferrero. The the chocolate brand. Sorry. My research went all over the place. And when there was one time I was like, oh, like Fila was Italian. I didn't know that. So I started looking at other Italian brands that are doing well in China. And then there are only a few that I can recognize by looking at it. And Ferrero was one of it because I'm a huge fan of Nutella. But Ferrero is... the shape of it, it's just so much celebrated by Chinese because we love money and we love fortune, right? And then all the chocolates, the gold wraps.
That's why people buy it.
It's just
good.
Auspicious,
It is.
It's fortune. It's something that it's shiny.
It's true.
It's being passed around at any events and plus it's all sugar and hazelnut. You can't go wrong with that.
I know.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And another fun fact, it's so the CEO of Anta, Mr. Ding. There are 2 people in China who are 4-time Olympic torch bearers that they passed on the torch 4 times in various Olympic events.
Oh, like even like during the 4-year period.
And Ding Shizhong was one of it. There is another famous celebrity who is the 4-time Olympic torchbearer.
Yeah.
And then I did not.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting that name. It's Lang Lang, the pianist. Huh? So random, right? It's pretty random.
Why is he so interesting?
Yeah. And I guess the last question that I have for you.
Why do people tally these stuff?
You accumulate weird things that you've done. It's like Guinness record, you know? The last question that I have for you. Do you own any Anta or Amer Sports branded jackets or clothing items?
Arc'teryx. I do have to say, like, their quality. Their quality is okay, but for the price that I paid, I think I could have gotten hiking boots at a higher quality.
True.
But like, I got the water resistant one. It washes very easily, I have to say.
Washes?
So like you can
wash it?
Yes, so after hiking, because it's water resistant, after hiking you know how there's like dirt everywhere, especially in Beijing. So you just like put it in the sink.
Oh, and you rinse it.
And then you just wipe it and it's clean.
Oh, okay.
So that's the one plus for that shoe.
Right.
What else do I own? My racket is not Wilson. My winter gear is also Burton because they don't do Anta. Buy snowboard brands.
By Burton.
By Burton. Oh. Burton's already very popular in China. I don't think they can do more with it.
Yeah. I just getting a general sense of how many pieces of Anta do you have. It may not seem
Not that
like
much,
an Anta,
but not that much actually. I don't buy Fila. I'm not fashionable.
You think about this. Here's a crazy thing. If I ask anyone, everyone will come back to me with at least one item. That is insane.
And that one item is most likely purchased in the last few years.
Exactly.
Last 5 years.
Oh, hi.
Okay, I think that's sick.
That's it. Okay. All right. That's the story of Anta. Thank you, guys. Yay. And if you like us, please rate us on Apple Podcast or Spotify. And if you're interested in any topics, please leave us comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Let's go back all the way to its beginnings. Which year are we starting at?
We are starting at the year where do we start? Hold on.
Okay, let's go back.
sorry. So instead of the year,